Hi, my name's Charlie Gage, and I'm an independent filmmaker, and I'm usually not used to being on this side of the camera, but I've done a few short films, and I have right now a documentary in the film festival circuit called Inspired: The Voices Against Prop 8. Not sure what else. Ask me some questions.
All right. So, how did you feel after Prop 8 was ruled unconstitutional?
The recent one?
Yes.
Happy, but it's not the end. Like, it's still, they're going to appeal and it's going to go to the Supreme Court. It's, like every victory is good. So I know some people that, thought it was no big deal. They thought, well, this, we didn't really win anything, but everything is a step. So it was good. It was exciting. And, we'll see, especially after all the work that everyone has put into it since before.
What inspired you to produce Inspired?
I actually made the movie accidentally. I should be looking at you. Okay. I actually made the movie accidentally. The day after, I was never political. I never did anything like that. And the day after the election in 2008, when Prop 8 passed, there was this rally up in West Hollywood that they were having against Prop 8. And, West Hollywood, if you don't know, that's, the gay city. And I thought it was stupid. I thought it was pointless, So a bunch of gay people that are pissed are going to go stand in a park in the gay neighborhood and bitch to each other. It's a waste of time. Like, no one's going to see it. No one's going to give a shit. And I actually, told some of my friends, I'm like, this is stupid. I would never go to this thing. And I had a friend visiting from Mexico who I was hanging out with that night and said, well, what do you want to do? There's this rally thing we can go check out, or, we can go somewhere else. So he said, let's go check it out. And we went there, and that was the day after the election, and there was thousands and thousands of people there. And that was the night where, when we got there, we couldn't even see the people speaking. There was so many people. We were backed up into the streets, and that was the night that everyone just kind of took to the streets and went up to Sunset Boulevard and shut down Sunset and marched to the CNN building, was banging on the windows of the CNN building. Another group marched to the Mormon temple. People went off in 3 different directions, shut down traffic over all of Hollywood. And that's kind of what got me okay, now people are paying attention. Now they realize this is a big deal. And after that, I just kind of got caught up in the protests and the marches. And I was just filming I was filming it on a $60 little Samsung point-and-shoot digital camera on movie mode. And I had no intention of ever making a film with it. It was just, I'm not big on chanting and screaming and holding protest signs, but I still wanted to be there, so I thought I'm going to film this because I may never, be in anything like this again. The one a few days later, well, there was one here in Long Beach, which was huge, and it turned into there was some questionable actions by the police at that one, and people got arrested. And then 2 days later, there was one in Silver Lake where 12,000 people showed up and marched from Silver Lake, which is on the eastern side of Los Angeles, all the way to Hollywood and Highland, and just pushed the cops back and shut down all of Sunset Boulevard and shut down the entire intersection of Hollywood and Highland. 12,000 people out of the blue. So I was just filming everything and just going to all these marches all the time. And eventually I just stopped for a second, and my friend Ian, who was my producer on it, we just said, look at all this amazing footage we have to do something with it. So that's when we started kind of cyber stalking the people, looking through our footage and see, okay, who do we have? Who are these people? Who are these people that are speaking at the rallies? We need to find them, and gathered everyone up and started to interview them. So that's kind of how it began. It was all basically by accident.
Did any of the people not want to be in the film?
No, that was good. I got lucky because of that, because it was something that everyone was so passionate about that everyone wanted to talk. And it was really interesting for me because we learned so much about just the community in the movie. Because the direction changed, once we started interviewing people and we started learning some things about just what was going on in the community. We ended up making it about people who weren't active. Because before Prop 8 passed, nobody in the gay and lesbian community in Southern California was really that active. They let these big corporations do everything. And then they screwed up. And so then everyone didn't trust them, and they all started their own groups. So we ended up getting people that started all their own grassroots organizations. And there was 30 of them. that just sprung up, and because no one trusted anyone else, and everyone started their own groups. So, and we also learned like interesting stuff about a lot of there was a lot of racism. We discovered a lot of weird like racial tension within even within the gay and lesbian community and within these protest groups between there's groups from East LA and West LA. Like the No on 8 campaign didn't have any presence in East Los Angeles. They basically ignored the whole Latino community. The people we interviewed in the movie opened up the only No on 8 office in all of East Los Angeles. It's like, this is Los Angeles. You can't really ignore the Latino community. It's like the majority of people in Los Angeles are Latino. So there was a lot of interesting things like that we discovered just through interviewing people, and that's how the story kind of ended up forming itself.
All right. Well, let's go to your earlier works. Who came up with the tips in your Masturbation movie? Name? What is it?
Masturbation, putting the fun into self-loving. It actually, I think technically it's like Boys Health, or like Adolescent Health series, Boys Health number 5. Like it's.
So it's a real sex video?
No, but we made it seem like it was like part of a series. That because there's text at the beginning of it that says that the infamous Dr. Winston, who was it's shot like a 1950s black and white grainy thing, and that like the parents found these and like drove him out of town and burned all of his movies, but we were able to find this one, and it was the only one that survived. And my friend JT, who now is also a filmmaker, he's got films going in festivals now. There was a website called Jackin' World that has very, very bizarre masturbation techniques on it. And my friend and I were just on the internet one day, like laughing at this thing because it was just a ridiculous website. Like it seems like it's a joke. So we thought that would be funny to like make a movie about that. And that's just how we shot half of it in his apartment, half of it in my apartment in 2 days. And that movie won like 7 awards, was in about 60 film festivals. It played all over the world.
Do you ever watch any of your movies for
fun? Only to show other people, but not on my own, really. I mean, I've even starting now with Inspired. I'm starting now with Inspired of getting to the point where at the film festivals, I'm like, can I just like walk out of the theater after it starts and come back in when it's ending? Because now you see, well, and you see it so many times, is you just start to see mistakes. You start to see, like I don't think anyone's ever supposed to look at their own movie 100 times, and you're going to keep watching because like no piece of art is ever really finished. You just at some point have to stop. So you're always watching, going, I never wish I changed it. Especially the way we did it. We didn't know we were making a movie. So a lot of the footage early in the film is just coincidence that I got people on camera doing things that I ended up being able to find these people and interview them. That was just coincidence that I got them. And I would have filmed it completely differently at those rallies if I knew what I was going to do with it eventually. But so a lot of times when I watch it, I just get a little, like, it just seems longer and longer.
What are your goals for future film projects?
Nah, that's a good question. I'm still working on that right now. Inspired is still, I mean, we're still kind of in the early stages of it's just doing the film. It's finishing up the film festival circuit. We just heard from a first distribution company that has actually contacted me with some interest in possibly putting it out on Hulu and DVDs and everything. So it's the first one. We're gonna talk to them. We'll see what kind of deal they have. But right now, I have like a few loose ideas for other projects, but I'm really just concentrating on how we can get this movie, once the film festivals are done, get it out into the world. So.
Okay. What kind of
just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want? Which group of audience do you want to target the most?
With Inspired?
Yeah.
Abroad, like, one of the things, like, the film festivals that we're applying to, we're making it a point to not exclude. There's a lot of gay and lesbian film festivals out there, and we're making it a point to not only apply to those. We could probably get in a lot of them, but like the same reason I bitched about that rally that was in West Hollywood, no one's going to care. Showing it, we're preaching to the choir, and if we need to show this film at other film festivals, at broader film festivals, it's basically like my own version of a protest rally, because that's why like the tides are changing, and that's why like when they're taking polls now, more and more people are like okay with gay marriage, because they're saying it's just knowing the stories behind the people. We all see the news, we all see the politics and Prop 8 and all that stuff, but to sit down and hear the story of these two people and see their wedding and hear how, like, there's this one girl in our movie who lived with her girlfriend for years, but during that 3 months that we had marriage, she got married to her girlfriend, and when she did that, her mom finally told the rest of her family she was a lesbian. And she had been out to her mother for 10 years, and her mother never told anyone else in the entire family until she got married.
What kind of message do you want to send to your audience?
I never really have like a specific message in mind. It's just I want to affect people. I want to either entertain them, have them learn something, just something that sticks in people's heads that they remember and either enjoy or learn something, or just it's memorable, really.
Okay. What kind of ideas are you trying to engage in your work?
I'm not sure I understand.
Like film-wise, like you, like let's say that the gay thing, you were inspired by the footage you recorded, and then you said, let's make something out of it. But with film,
like themes and things like that.
Something that specific that you want to do, like after you're done with this project.
Oh, I want to do another documentary, definitely. Partially because I want to do one knowing I'm making a documentary from the very beginning, as opposed to this one. And it's very different than making like a feature film, because you just kind of, you don't have a script, you don't have a storyboard. And so it's more difficult to go out with a theme or an idea of what you want to get across, because the story kind of reveals itself to you. So as you're going, and I also like the idea of exposing people to worlds that a lot of people don't know about. All the activism from Los Angeles that was inspired. It's stuff that a lot of people didn't even know about. So I like kind of like exposing, showing parts of the world like that. So.
Okay. So how does your work present itself as art?
That's a good question, because like originally when I heard about this project, I was like, okay. A lot of times, more like doing documentaries, you kind of think it's more like a reporter kind of a thing than art, but it is, because it's the tools you're working with. I mean, you're telling a story like anything. Like you're telling a story with a painting, and you're telling a story with any kind of art you create. It's just a medium that you use, and it's almost to get. What's more challenging is not just not telling the story, but getting people to want to pay attention and learn what the story is. So it's being able to use, what do we have? We have animation, we have graphics, I have, interviews and live footage, and how can we make this where people are entertained and interested enough in the art that they see on the screen that they'll listen to the story we're trying to tell them. Because, if it's not artistic and interesting and fun or fun to just look at, no one's going to care what your story is.
What kind of film? I think I asked you that. I'll ask you that. What kind of films do you plan on making in the future?
I kind of answered that one, and I'm not really because I'm so focused on right now with just getting this one out. But other documentaries. I just kind of answered that one.
Do you ever see yourself like making something like a cinema, like a fiction kind of film, rather than?
Yeah, I do like just a narrative film. It's just documentaries are way cheaper. It's a completely different experience because documentary is on a lot of levels so much smaller and a personal kind of thing, and they're both films, but it's so completely different. I mean, you're doing a narrative and you need a crew of tons and tons of people to do everything, and you have this story to begin with, and you're trying to bring that to life, as opposed to documentary, which is almost more of like a mystery. It's almost like, I think this is interesting, and but let's find out where it goes, and it might not ever go anywhere, but it might find something totally different. I would do a narrative, with the right story and the right backing.
Okay. So this is my last question. How do you define your work of art?
I wouldn't say that I define my work. I let the work kind of speak for itself, because all the stuff, everything is so different. All the stuff that I've done, the DVD extras and the other documentary, We're All Angels, that I was the associate producer on, and then the Masturbation document, or the Masturbation film, the short film, and this one, they're all completely different type of things, and it's hard to, I wouldn't say that on some levels they don't have anything in common. It's just all, like I said before, it's all just things that I find funny or fascinating or interesting that I want to other people to learn about or see or enjoy. It's just like telling someone a story. Oh my God, you have to hear this story that I heard. That's totally awesome. I'm doing that, but I'm doing that in the form of a film.
All right. These are like general questions.
Okay.
All right. Where do directors get inspiration for the film?
For coming up with the idea, or for how you're going to do it? If it sounds stupid to say life, but kind of. I mean, it's things that really excite you, and it's watching other movies. Really, you just watch a lot of other things, and then you kind of get an idea of the rhythm and how it's done, and then you'll come across something and be like, wow, this would make it. And either way, this could make a great story. This would make an interesting story. You could do it a documentary. You could write your own story to it. But it's just kind of being open to different things around you, being open to new experiences, and just exploring things that you find interesting, and just letting stuff come to you, I guess.
All right. How do people usually get into directing?
Being a little bit crazy helps. I have had some artist friends after this, after Inspired played here in Long Beach. I went out afterwards with one of my friends who's in a band, and he is a songwriter in the band, and we used a lot of their music in the movie. And my other friend who's a painter, and we went out and we were having beers after the movie, and we were talking about our experiences all creating what we do, our art, my film, his paintings, my other friends' as albums. And it's the exact same experience. We all go through the same things. We all go through the same steps, the same stress. And it is a little bit, you have to be a little bit crazy that you have this thing inside of you that you have to do this. Because there's no, I mean, I'm not going to get rich off this documentary of any of these short films. I'm, probably not making any money on them. And there's no reason to do it. It's you have to have that thing inside you that wants to come home from your day job and then sit at your computer until 1 a.m. every single night, not seeing your friends, staying in every weekend, sitting at, editing this thing till it comes out perfect. It's just, and you have that inside of you, and you need to do that.
How do you get people to do your films?
I haven't done that type of film in a while, but what we did before that's just I don't know if it's still around. Backstage West, I think it's still around. It was a newspaper, but a lot of now people just use Craigslist. You put ads out, you have an audition. Craigslist is a great way to do it. You have to kind of be careful, you can't audition people in your home, but you rent out some space like at a library or something, and that's the best way to do it.
How much time do movies take to complete?
That depends on how much money you have. You can, and how much. Yeah, basically. It's sad to say this, but to some extent, it comes down with film is so expensive because it's all about the tools, and the tools are expensive. And depending on what kind of story you're telling. If one of my closest friends just did a narrative feature film, and it took him like 5 years just to raise money before he started doing anything. And then it took him like a whole nother year to shoot it, and it's just because he's new, he doesn't have the thousands of dollars in the backers and everything. Mine, we were able to do it pretty quick because it's a documentary. It was much more simple. It basically took us a year. So, but it's the way we're told that it's a smaller story and it's easier to, but it's something that's going to take a while,
This is my last question. Knowing that film is like so expensive, why don't people get into it?
Like I said, that crazy thing, feeling like you have to do it. Well, and kind of to change what I said before is depends on what you want to do with your film. That they'll dictate how long it'll take you to make it, because you can pump out something in a week if you're going to do something that's short and you're just going to put it up on YouTube. That's kind of the thing that a lot of people do just to get experience with using your stuff. And I know people that do little shorts like that just to eventually put it together and make something really big. So it all depends on the story you want to tell and how you want to do it. But that's a great way to do it too. If you're not, you don't always be concerned about making something perfect when you start. Just make a bunch of stupid little short films, and every one you do, you're gonna learn something, and it'll make your next one that much better. So.
How many films have you done to date?
Inspired is actually my first feature I directed. I did a couple shorts in the past. I directed this kind of bad horror short called Pandora's Other Box, about this killer hooker who would rip guys' tongues out when they would make out and leave them dead. And she carried around a box of tongues she had ripped out of people's mouths. That was like one of the first things that I did. I would say not that many. If you count like DVD extra projects, maybe like 15, 20 things, I'm guessing. We did a lot of things I've worked on in different capacities to things. But as far as being in charge, it's relatively new. I've been like second in command for a lot of things, but this is my first. Inspired is the first one that's like I'm full on driving the bus this time.
So. Do you think making all these movies have gotten you gain this experience to be able to know what you would want in a movie?
Yeah, it definitely helps. Before this one, because before Inspired, I worked on this film called We're All Angels, which is a documentary film about these guys that are they're a gay couple, but they're also Christian recording artists. So nobody wants to talk to them. The gay people don't want to talk to them because they're Christian. The Christians don't want to talk to them because they're gay, but they're singing about Jesus. So the small company I work for, which is basically my friend and myself, his company, and we did a documentary on them that took a couple years. And it's, I learned the tools to do Inspired working on that, being the kind of second in command, watching, what he did right and what's his mistakes. And there were parts of that film that were all me, and just getting that little bit more responsibility with that made me feel comfortable that I could go ahead and, do this one on my own. So yeah, everything helps.
Have there been any frustrating moments where you felt like, you wouldn't want to go on with the film?
Oh yeah. Like with Inspired, part of it was the way we stumbled into it, that we ended up with footage almost like found footage, we filmed it, but we didn't know we were filming with a movie. So it's like, how are we going to make this into a story? And there were times where my co-producer, Ian McIntosh, we get in arguments, we get in fights, over like parts need to stay in, this part doesn't work. And it's eventually you just find a way to make it work. But, especially on a documentary, you have an idea we're like, is this going to be interesting? Did you need more for that, or should I answer it again? Or,
It's up to you.
what was the question? Oh, if did I learn on the other?
Any frustrating moments?
Oh yeah, okay. I've been working on a different kind of film. I know with a narrative film, a frustration is the fact that you have to. I mean, if you're doing like a regular narrative movie, it's a lot about managing people. It's the art of it sometimes gets lost, and it's hard to remember that because you have like this team of, dozens and dozens and dozens of people doing all these different things. So it's a lot of kind of balancing that and just getting personalities to work together in order to get your vision done. So that gets really frustrating. And then the documentary, it's, since it's a story that kind of unravels itself as it goes, there's moments where, we'd sit back and look at this footage and go, this is boring. Like, I don't think we have a story. And when you've been working on something, you spent 6 months working on something and you're looking at it on the screen and you're like, this doesn't make sense. Like, we know what we want to tell, but I don't think it's working. And we ended up you just keep trying and trying, and, sometimes it's just luck, and we just got stuff to work, and we got everything in there that we wanted to, and it's really finding specifically what you want to tell. So, but yeah, there's times when, and plus, in independent filmmaker, you basically lose your life. I got in arguments with friends and things because I wasn't going out, I wasn't seeing people, I wasn't even in my apartment. I was staying in my friend's, he has a converted garage studio apartment with a bed in there, and I set up my computer, and I basically lived there for almost a year. And that's all I did was work on this film and edit it and fine tune it and try to, and that was my life, and it gets frustrating because, at certain points when things aren't working out, you're like, I gave up my life for this and it's not turning out into anything, but, if you don't give up, and you can make it work. So a little rambly there. But.
It's fine. You guys have any more questions?
Yeah, I have one last
Okay.
question. So, like, if you were to give a college student advice that's wanting to film, what would you tell them, like, in terms of, like, how to get there, where to look, and, that kind of stuff?
Film is weird because a lot of people, they say film school is good. I didn't go to film school. I went to Cal State Fullerton and I took film classes. Education always helps. I would never tell someone, if you have the means to go to a film school, do it if you can. But if you don't have the means, don't feel like you need to, because the way things are now with YouTube and with just the accessibility of cameras on everything, phones, and just film everything, make stupid little, YouTube channels. There's people that become famous over just stupid little YouTube things that just keep putting movies up. But as long as you keep doing that and going at it, you're going to just get better and better and better. So, and you could get some exposure, and that could help. And you could even make money off that. Some people do, so.
All right, well, thanks, Charlie.
Okay.
Appreciate it.